Hi guys, and welcome back to I Speak English. My name's Hayley, and in this lesson today we're going to be taking a look at 20 really essential phrasal verbs that you can use in your Cambridge C1 exam. These are really going to help you in speaking. You can also use some of them in writing, and then we're also going to show you how you're going to be tested on them in keyword transformation, your part 4 use of English. So if you're struggling with phrasal verbs or you want to learn more, stay here with me now, and I'm going to show you exactly how you can use them in the exam. But before we do take a look, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel and you hit the bell so that you can get a notification from me every time I upload a new video. Long videos like this one are every Saturday, and I upload shorts every single day as well. So make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss any of those videos, and we're going to get started. So let's take a look at our 20 phrasal verbs for the Cambridge C1 exam then. First of all, if you're not familiar with phrasal verbs, if you don't know what they are, it's basically a verb attached to a preposition, and it gives your verb a completely different meaning to its original one. For example, work out, that's a phrasal verb. It doesn't have anything to do with the verb work. Okay, work out can mean to exercise. It can mean to calculate something, it can mean to understand something, and this is the problem with phrasal verbs. They're very difficult to learn because often they have multiple different meanings depending on context, depending on where you put the preposition or the pronoun. The pronoun can sometimes go in the middle of the verb and the preposition, it sometimes goes at the end, and that can also change the meaning as well. So they are quite difficult to learn. They're also very, very specific as well. A lot of the time there is not a one-word synonym for a phrasal verb because they have so much meaning just in those two words that it's very difficult to find an exact translation in your language for it. But they are incredibly useful. Again, because they're so specific, you can say a lot of information in just 2 words, which often you can't do in other languages. And they're also very, very common in speaking. Native speakers use them all the time. They're really common, and that's why you need to know them at advanced level for your Cambridge C1 exam, because they are a natural element of native speech. So you're expected to know them and be able to use them as well. Don't panic though. We're going to take a look. I'm going to simplify it for you. I'm going to give you some context, and I'm going to show you how to use them in different parts of the exam as well. So we're going to start with the topic of family. I've arranged these into 5 really common topics that you'll get in your exam. We're going to do 4 phrasal verbs per topic. Our first topic is family. And our first verb is to stick by someone. Okay, if you stick by someone, you support that person. Okay, usually in like an emotional way. For example, in your speaking exam, if they ask you the question, tell us about your family, you could respond, for example, I'd say we're quite close. My parents have always stuck by me, so I try to make time for them as much as possible. Okay, so my parents have always supported me, they've always been there for me. If I need help, they always help me. So that's what stick by means in this context, okay? Stick by somebody, you always need a pronoun on the end there. Stick by me, stick by you, stick by him, etc., etc. So that's our first phrasal verb. Second one, to bring somebody up. This you probably should know by now. If you don't, definitely use it. It means to raise a child. Now, if you were to say the word raise, it sounds very formal. In English, we just wouldn't use it. We would always use bring up. Okay, so just try and switch that out in your mind, to bring somebody up. For example, again, if they ask you that question in your speaking exam, tell us about your family. You could say, my parents are originally from Italy, but they brought me up in Spain. I go over for dinner every Sunday and we spend the day together. Okay, so they brought me up. You can use bring up in an active way, like this, they brought me up. Or you can use it in a passive way and you can say, I was brought up. by my parents. Okay, so you can use it active or passive. Careful, not all phrasal verbs you can use active and passively. Some you can't. You can only use in an active way. Bring up, you can use both. Okay, so bring up is to, care for a child from when until they're an adult. Okay, you bring that person up. All right, next up, we're going to take a look at a keyword transformation for this one. Okay, so our next one is to patch something up. Okay, to patch something up, which means to reconcile. So we would normally do this after you've had an argument with somebody. You would patch it up, meaning the relationship, or you could say patch things up as well. It's more common to say patch things up, and it just means to say sorry. And to be friends again, to reconcile. Okay. So let's say you get a keyword transformation that looks like this. You've got your first sentence here, they reconciled after a long argument, and your keyword is up. Now that's a kind of key tip. Often in keyword transformation, if you just get a preposition as your keyword, they're testing you on a phrasal verb, 9 times out of 10. Also, if you're struggling with keyword transformation for the C1 exam, I've got a video up here with a specific strategy that will really help you. A lot of people hate this task, and it is really, really tricky, so I understand why people hate it and it's difficult. But if you are struggling, take a look at that video. Again, save it for later, and that should help you in the exam. But for now, let's take a look. So we know that patch up means reconcile, right? So we know that we need patch up to replace this word. And then we've got after arguing for a long. So we've actually had quite a major structure change here, because we've gone from your noun of argument to your verb arguing. And then for a long, so we're going to have to add a noun after, because we've got a here. And then also include patch up. Right, I'm gonna give you about 10 seconds to try and answer this yourself, and then I'll show you the answer. Write the answer in the comments if you want, and I'll correct you. I'm gonna give you 10 seconds. Try and answer this question between 2 to 6 words. Okay, so that it has the same meaning as the first sentence. You've got 10 seconds, off you go. Alright, your time is up. What did you go for? How did you complete this sentence? After arguing for a long time, so you needed to add that word in there, they patched things up. Okay. Normally in the exam, they wouldn't do this where they would just leave the rest of the sentence for you. Normally they would also have words to end the sentence, so you need to kind of complete the middle of the sentence, because then it can kind of give you a clue of what else to put in, so it wouldn't be that difficult in the exam, because you would always be completing that middle bit. So, but yeah, after a long time, they patch things up. Alright, so before we move on to our next phrasal verb, I just wanted to give you a little tip about speaking. If you are struggling to get practice with your speaking, or if you're practicing but you don't know if you're doing things right or if you're making mistakes, kind of grammar errors or anything like that, there is a really nice app that you can download. It's called 5 Minute English. It's available on Google Play, and it has like thousands of speaking questions for Cambridge C1 and C2 and B1, B2, but for all speaking parts, speaking part 1, 2, 3 and 4. Basically what you can do is just record yourself. You get a task, choose whatever question you want to answer, and then the app will record you speaking. It will record you answering the question, and then it will give you corrections, grammar corrections, vocabulary corrections, also suggestions as well. There's a free trial as well, so you can kind of play around with it. I think you get like 5 minutes of like free talking and corrections. And then you'll have to subscribe if you find it useful. The link's in the description. Click that there, download it, have a play around, have a practice. And if you find it useful, then you can subscribe. Right, so that's just to help you with your speaking a bit, but I recommend this to all my students because it's a really good app. All right, moving on to our next phrasal verb. Lean on somebody. Okay, if you lean on somebody, you get support from that person. So lean on has a physical meaning, which is literally if there was something here and I did this, I would be leaning on that thing for physical support. But if you lean on a person, you kind of lean on them for emotional support. Could also be financial support as well. For example, in an essay, if you're writing, you could write, for example, in times of crisis, individuals often lean on extended family networks for guidance and stability. Okay, so you get support from your family. You lean on your family. Okay, so there are a few phrasal verbs like this that you can use in writing. As I said before, phrasal verbs, they're actually informal. We normally use them in informal speech, so don't go too crazy with them in your essay or your report or proposal because they're formal. In your review, sure, use lots of them. In your informal letter, definitely use lots of them. But try to use them kind of sparingly in your formal writing. Okay, this one's okay because it's more neutral. It's not so informal. Okay. All right, so we're going to have a quick test, okay, just to see if you were paying attention and you remember what these phrasal verbs mean. So I need you to fill in the gap here with those 4 phrasal verbs, one of those 4 phrasal verbs that we just looked at. We've got stick by, bring up, patch up, and lean on. Which one of these verbs goes in this gap? I was in a big family where everyone helped each other. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to complete this sentence. Okay, off you go. All right, your 5 seconds are up. What did you go for? I was brought up in a family where everyone helped each other. Okay, so I was raised in a family. Stick by would not make sense, patch up doesn't make any sense, and lean on does not make sense in this context. Okay. All right, by the way, if you want to practice any of these phrasal verbs, kind of just write a comment, write like a sentence in the comments using the phrasal verbs, and I'll correct you if you need it, just to kind of get that practice. Because it's easy, they're easy enough to learn passively, but it's actually really hard to practice them. So if you want to practice, just leave me a comment and I'll correct you. All right, moving on to our next topic is work. Very common topic for the Cambridge C1 exam. So our first phrasal verb is to carry out, which is a synonym for do, but we often collocate it with research, a survey, tests, an examination, something like that. So you carry out research, you carry out a survey, okay? You wouldn't say like, I carried out dinner, like I did dinner, or I carried out the dishes or something. That wouldn't make sense. It only collocates with these certain words. So you could use it in a report, for example, okay? After carrying out a survey on 100 people, it was reported that 70% of students found facilities to be dissatisfactory. So this is great for your report, because in your report, you should be kind of, saying that you've done this survey or some kind of questionnaire, and then you're reporting the results of it. Again, if you're not sure about how to write a report, I've got a video, click it, and you'll be able to get a structure and learn how to write it there. So this is really nice for your report to carry out. Again, it's neutral, it's not informal, so you can use this in a more kind of formal setting. Next up, to knuckle down. Okay, if you knuckle down, you work intensively on something. If you don't know what a knuckle is, it's this part of your hand here. These are your knuckles. I'm not sure why knuckle down means to work intensively. I don't know where this came from, but it is what it is. So, for example, if they ask you in the speaking exam, what do you enjoy most about your job? You could say, I love that I get to talk to people from all over the world, but I really have to knuckle down when it comes to the reports. Okay, I have to work very intensively when it comes to the reports. Okay, so knuckle down is to work intensively. Another keyword transformation, let's take a look. So our phrasal verb here is to fill in for. You fill in for somebody, which means you replace somebody. Okay, you normally fill in for somebody temporarily. So let's say one of your colleagues or co-workers is sick, and you kind of have to do their job for them for a few days, then you fill in for them. Same, let's say one of your colleagues can't come to a meeting and you have to go to the meeting instead, you fill in for that person. Okay, so fill in for is to like temporarily replace somebody. So let's see keyword transformation then. If we have the word Karen replace John while he was on holiday, and you get the word fill, we're going to have to use fill in for, and now we've got it starts our sentence. Okay, another big tip for you for keyword transformation. If your second sentence starts with it or what, that means they're testing you on a cleft sentence. Okay, if you don't know what a cleft sentence is, click up here, I've got a video. It's a very important grammar point at C1. You have to be able to do this grammar point and show that you know how this grammar point works in order to get more points. So we've got a cleft sentence here and a phrasal verb. Alright, so let's take another look at our sentence then. So we've got it, John while he was on holiday. And we've got filled, so we need to use, we know it's in the past, and we need to use fill in for in the past to go with replaced. Okay, so I'm going to give you 10 seconds again to try and complete this sentence. Okay, your 10 seconds start now, off you go. Okay, your 10 seconds are up. What did you put? We needed a cleft sentence and we needed to use fill in for phrasal verb. It would be, it was Karen who filled in for John while he was away on holiday. Okay, so this is an example of a cleft sentence. It was something that, or it was someone who, and then the rest of your sentence. Okay, so Karen replaced John while he was on holiday. It was Karen who filled in for John while he was on holiday. Alright, so we've looked at about 6 phrasal verbs for now. If you're struggling to learn phrasal verbs, or if you're struggling to kind of practice them, a nice way to practice is to use Quizlet. I use this a lot when I'm also learning languages as well. It's a free app. You can just download it from the App Store, completely free. And I've put some flashcards. I've made some flashcards on Quizlet for you. There's 100 C1 phrasal verbs in this flashcard set. Click the description, there's a link there. You can download them for free and have a practice. So I've got the phrasal verbs there and the definitions as well. And you can just go through them. Do like 5-10 minutes a day, really quick. If you're waiting for the bus or something, or you've just got a spare 10 minutes. Have a go on Quizlet. Again, it's completely free. And yeah, just kind of slowly build your vocabulary that way, because vocabulary is huge at C1. It's like your biggest obstacle at C1, and a lot of people underestimate how much vocabulary they need to pass the C1 exam. So click the link there in the description, download that, have a play, and just kind of slowly learn your phrasal verbs that way, and that might help you a bit. Moving on to our next phrasal verb, still on work, the topic. We've got step down, which means to resign from your job or leave your job voluntarily. So this would be nice in a formal letter or something like that. For example, let's say you've got a letter of complaint. You could say, in retribution for the treatment our staff have received, we demand that the CEO step down immediately and make a formal apology. Okay, so we demand that he resigns immediately or leaves his job. So you could use this in a formal letter. You could also use it in an informal letter as well. You could use it in an essay maybe, if you've got the right context. but very useful just in general. Alright, time for another test. That's our 4 phrasal verbs for work done. They were carry out, knuckle down, fill in for, and step down. So you need to complete this sentence for me. Again, write your answer in the comments if you want and I'll correct you. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to complete this sentence. When my manager was ill, I had to her at an important meeting. You need to complete it with one of these phrasal verbs. You've got 5 seconds. Off you go. Alright, your 5 seconds are up. What did you go for? When my manager was ill, I had to fill in for her at an important meeting. You had to replace her temporarily at an important meeting. Okay, on to our next topic then, which is education, another very common topic for your C1 exam. They often ask you about this in part 1, definitely. Part 2, part 3, it's a very common topic. So our first one is to sail through. We use this for exams, so it means to easily pass your exam, okay, without much effort. You just sail through, super easy. For example, you could use this in an informal letter. I could say, I was so worried that I wouldn't pass my exam, but guess what? I sailed through it. Okay, passed it really easily without even trying. Okay, so to sail through, easily pass an exam. Next up, to catch up on, you might already know this one. Just means that you do work that you've missed. Or you can use it for study as well. You can, if you need to catch up on some notes or on some lessons that you've missed or some classes, you can use it that way as well. We've got another keyword transformation here. Let's take a look. So we've got, if I miss my classes, I always do the work later. And we've got on, so we need to put our phrasal verb catch up on. Okay, and we've got, she said that if she missed classes, she'd work later. So we've got some reported speech here. Again, reported speech is quite a common one to get in keyword transformation. Often there's always a one reported speech question in there. Remember, your tenses change in reported speech in the way that they don't in direct speech, so watch out for your tenses here. So I'm going to give you 10 seconds to complete this sentence with reported speech and catch up on. Okay, you've got 10 seconds, off you go. Alright, your 10 seconds are up. What did you go for? She said that if she missed classes, she always caught up on the work later. Okay, so we had to change the tense there. Remember, reported speech, all your tenses kind of go back one into the past. So do becomes did, okay, or becomes past simple. She always caught up on the work later. All right, next up then, to go over, another super common phrasal verb, just means to revise or to kind of look at again or read again. So if they say to you in your speaking exam, why do you think some people struggle to learn a second language? Your response could be, I think some people spend a lot of time going over grammar rules rather than trying to use the language and speak. Okay, a lot of people are just revising grammar rules. That is my genuine opinion. I think a lot of people do revise grammar rules and they don't speak much. I know it's hard kind of practice in speaking. It is quite difficult if you don't live in an English speaking country. Again, to practice, like, you can download that app, 5 Minute English. That's a nice way to practice. Or you could join one of my conversation lessons if you like. I do have conversation groups running throughout the year. You can go to www.englishclassesonline.co.uk and you can book a class with me there if you'd like to have a conversation and improve your English. In the meantime, we're going to move on to our next phrasal verb, which is drop out, which is when you quit education early. Like, it's not like you finish and get your degree or you get your qualification. You just say, I'm done, I quit, and you don't get a qualification. Okay. You could use this in a proposal. It is quite informal. You need a very specific kind of context for this one. So you could use it in your informal letter. You can use it in speaking. The proposal here, I actually used it as a noun. So with some phrasal verbs, you can do this where you like add the preposition and the verb together using a hyphen, or you just add them and it becomes a noun. So for example, or here actually I've used it as an adjective, not a noun. For example, in order to curb high dropout rates, it is essential for the Academy to conduct student satisfaction surveys to take criticism on board. Okay, so dropout rates are the rates of dropout. So I've used it as an adjective here. This is a nice verb here, to curb high dropout rates. If you curb something, you try to reduce it. Okay, so there's a nice synonym for reduce, curb. Right, so there are phrasal verbs for education. We're going to have another quick test before we move on to our next topic. So our phrasal verbs were sail through, catch up on, go over, and drop out. And you need to complete this sentence for me. Again, write your answer in the comments if you like. We've got the teacher suggested that students their essays thoroughly before submission. Okay, you've got 5 seconds. Have a look, have a think. Write your answer in the comments. Off you go. Alright, have you got your answer? Your 5 seconds are up. The teacher suggested that students go over their essays thoroughly before admission. So they revise it, they look at it again, or they read it again. Okay, so go over your essay, read it again. Alright, next up, our next topic is travel. Another very common topic at C1. This next one is a very common phrasal verb. We use it specifically in this way. It's used in a passive way with be or get. We'd say that you get held up, or you are held up, and that means that you're delayed, or there is a delay. Okay. For example, in speaking, if they ask you the question, have you ever had a bad travel experience? You could say, unfortunately, yes. Our flight was held up for 2 hours because of bad weather, and when we finally took off, the turbulence was awful. Okay, so to be held up or get held up is to be delayed, okay, or to have a delay. Alright, next up, to head off. Is our next one? Head off just means to leave. Okay, is another synonym for leave. So just try and kind of switch that over in your mind. When you want to use the word leave, use head off instead, and you'll just get more points for language, really. We've got another keyword transformation here. Let's take a look. So we've got the group decided to leave early in the morning to avoid heavy traffic. You've got off, so you need to use head off. And we've got the group avoided heavy traffic by in the morning. Okay, so watch out with by, because prepositions take particular verb patterns, so you're going to be wary of the form that your next verb comes in. Okay, I'm going to give you 10 seconds. Have a look, have a think, write your answer in the comments and I'll correct you. Off you go. Right, your 10 seconds are up. What did you put for this one? Okay, make sure you write something in the comments if you want corrections. The group avoided heavy traffic by heading off early in the morning. So because we have by, whenever you have a preposition and you need to put a verb after that preposition, that verb is normally in ing form. Okay, it's a good tip. Remember that one because a lot of people make mistakes with prepositions and verbs. Okay, so preposition, verb and ing. Alright, next up, run into. That's our next phrasal verb, which means when you meet somebody unexpectedly, like you just by chance. Okay. You can use this in the informal letter. You could also just use it in normal speech as well. So you could say, you'll never guess who I ran into in the shop yesterday. David. Do you remember him from the bar we used to work in at uni? Okay. So you'll never guess. That's nice to use in your informal letter. And remember, in your informal letter, you need to use Lots of kind of punctuation as well, exclamation marks, question marks, things like that. Okay, so run into, to meet someone unexpectedly. You can also use bump into as well in exactly the same way. Okay, I bumped into David yesterday. I ran into David yesterday. Alright, next one is get around. Get around just means to travel, usually around a city. Okay, so meaning like, do you get the bus? Do you walk? Do you like rent a car? How do you get around? How do you move or travel around this city? Okay, for example, again, you could use it in your informal letter. So you could say, you know Rome far better than I do, so could you give me some advice about the city? Is it easy to get around there, or should I rent a car? Okay, so is it easy to move? Like, should I get public transport, or should I rent a car? Okay, so there are 4 phrasal verbs for travel. Again, quick test before we move on to our final topic. So our phrasal verbs were be held up, head off, run into, and get around. You need to complete this sentence with one of them. While I was backpacking across Europe, I an old friend in Prague. Okay, you've got 5 seconds. Try to complete that sentence. Off you go. Okay, your 5 seconds are up. You should have put, I ran into an old university friend in Prague. Okay, I kind of saw them or met them unexpectedly. Okay, ran into or I bumped into an old friend in Prague. Okay, and finally, our final topic is health. Very common topic. Again, Cambridge C1. Our first phrasal verb is pull through, which means to survive. We would often use this if you're incredibly sick, or if you have a very bad or very difficult surgery or intervention or something like that. Very bad physical problem. If you pull through it, it's like you come through the other side and you survive. Okay. We're going to do another keyword transformation here. So our phrase is the patient's determination and the doctor's expertise enabled her to survive a complex surgery. You've got pull. We know that pull through is going to replace survive here. And we've got she wouldn't. So, we've got wouldn't. So I reckon this is going to be a conditional form. Bit of a tricky one. Have a look, have a think. You've got 10 seconds. Write your answer in the comments if you want a correction. Okay, your 10 seconds starts now. Off you go. Alright, your 10 seconds are up. What did you write? She wouldn't, this was a tricky one, have pulled through without the doctor's expertise and her own determination. Okay. She wouldn't have pulled through. So it is third conditional. Okay, she wouldn't have. And then you needed to add without there just to join this kind of noun phrase here. Okay, so to pull through is to survive. Next up, to shake off. This is very common. If you shake something off, it's like you finally get rid of an illness, okay, or you recover from an illness. We only really use this with very minor illnesses like a cold or the flu. You wouldn't use this for like cancer or heart disease or something like that. It doesn't make any sense because you can't really shake it off. You know, it's like, yeah, it's only for something small. So, for example, you could use it in an informal letter or in speaking. Sorry I haven't got back to you sooner, but I've been as sick as a dog for the last few weeks and I've only just managed to shake off the flu. Okay, I've only just managed to get rid of it. I've only just recovered from it. Okay. To be as sick as a dog, nice idiomatic expression there. And this is a nice way to start off your letter. Sorry I haven't got back to you sooner. Okay, so shake off, to get rid of an illness. And next up, to wear out. You wear somebody out, or something wears you out. It makes you tired. Okay, so it's, oh God, that really wore me out. It really made you tired. Okay. For example, if they ask you in speaking, how easy is it to balance home and work life? You could say, honestly, I think it's really tricky to get the balance right. Some days I come home from work and I'm so worn out, I can barely keep my eyes open. So this is almost kind of like an adjective here in a way, or it's like in a passive form, I am worn out. But you can also use it in like the active way of something wears me out as well. It makes you tired. All right, and our final phrasal verb of this video, to build up, which means to increase. You can use this with stamina, you can use it with strength, you could also use it with health in general as well. You can use this in an essay, but again you can use it in speaking, maybe a letter as well. For example, if you get an essay about obesity or something, the key to lowering obesity rates is providing more access to sports facilities. If people could make exercise a part of their daily routine, they could shed weight and build up their strength. They could increase their strength. Okay, shed weight is a nice way to say lose weight. Okay, bit of variety there. Okay, so build up, just to increase. We've got one more test before we go. Let's see if you were paying attention to those last 4 phrasal verbs. We had pull through, shake off, wear out, and build up. We need to complete this sentence with one of them. Long working hours, even the most resilient employees. What phrasal verb do you think fits that gap? You've got 5 seconds. Off you go. Alright, your 5 seconds are up. You should have put long working hours wear out even the most resilient employees. They make you tired. They make employees tired. Okay. Alright, so there we go. There are our 20 really common phrasal verbs, really useful phrasal verbs for your Cambridge C1 exam. If you found this video useful, please do give it a like. It helps it to reach more Cambridge C1 candidates so that they can prepare for their Cambridge C1 exam as well. Also, make sure you are subscribed to the channel so that you can get more videos from me every week. I upload videos every single week and shorts every single day. If you've got any questions at all, leave me a comment and I'll get back to you when I can. And if you want to take any lessons with me for the Cambridge C1 exam, just go to www.englishclassesonline.co.uk and you can book a lesson with me there. That's all from me for today, and I'll see you in another class soon. Bye.